Greetings, dear viewers, and welcome to my fan commentary on episode 26 of Power Rangers Time Force Traitor, which is the last gen-focused episode for the season, dealing with their past, and also the unveiling of who is the real superior of Time Force. And this was Captain Logan's final episode of the series, which we'll get to. Coincidentally, this was another gen-centric episode of Time Force that they adapted from the source material from Time Ranger that was dedicated to the Pink Ranger, with Steelix being Gen Stalker. Basically, I would like to call this the Gen Stalker episode. Oh, here we go. Like with Gen's Revenge, we got another episode with Lucas using so much hair gel or hairspray, but that is too much. It's great to see that we got Wes and Jen making cookies at this point. We also learn in this episode that back in the year 3000, where Jen and the other Rangers come from, they don't have junk food in the future. So you mean to tell me in many, many years into the future, like in our time, that they're going to forbidden any sense of junk food and sugary snacks and stuff? Wow. Okay, so that's will likely happen. So if this does get predicted many years into the future after this has happened, okay, fine. Spoiler alert about those cookies, though. They taste like crap. This is the first instance where we actually see a ranger on his or her own getting stalked by somebody. And this is a rare instance because one of the things I liked about this half of Time Force, or particularly any Power Ranger episode from this era in general, we hardly ever see a monster stalk a ranger. This is like some creepy horror movie stuff with a stalker hunting down his or her prey, and then seeing Jen run away from her stalker, who turns out to be an old friend of hers who she later put away back in the year 3000 when she was still a rookie cadet for Time Force. Oh yeah, and also this is one of those episodes post movie madness with that second brand new opening credits with the different cast, the different cast credit change with the credits being different from what we had before. But I don't know why. Also, speaking of the opening credits, they still have that one deleted shot of the Q-Rex getting blasted from Clash for Control still intact in the opening credits for the second half of the season. I don't know why they still have that. Then maybe they should have changed it to something else, knowing they already cut that whole scene from the original Master of Clash for Control Part 2. And also the Twin Towers shot with the Time Shadow Megazord. I don't know why they still kept that intact in the credits. Good thing she came prepared with a Chrono Blaster, because in case whoever was following her, but then turn around. Oh, and that stray cat. We hardly ever see this in this franchise with the Ranger getting stalked by somebody. I mean, aside from the Tankenstein thing back in space, but this is something else. This is more serious than that. But only as soon as they were about to find Jen, but then she shows up already, so no point to help her. But then she knew she was going to get hurt. The way how they did those computer monitors for Time Force, and then when you have like the Ranger communicating with whoever, it looks like that particular shot that they used in Star Wars whenever they would, like in the Star Wars movies with holographic projections of who you're interacting with. you would think after so many silly, goofy episodes, it's Time Force went back to being more serious with its episodes. Well, say for Beware the Black Knight episode, we'll get to that. This is the only time we'll see Ransik in the episode. None of the other villains appear besides Steelix. We'll never know how much money did Ransik pay Steelix to get secrets to Time Force. So again, we never know. What did he wanted with the secret? What did he wanted the files on Time Force for? I'll never know at this point. But good thing that they put him away back in that flashback. But yeah, and your Stalker had to take your morpher away. Here's the thing with Captain Logan. In the many episodes of Time Force, and even when they cut from where the Rangers are in 2001 versus all of those inhabitants of the year 3000. Oh man, they briefly didn't shadow Alex's face enough a little bit, knowing that was actually Jason Font. They should have took some careful precautions to shadow his face out. I hope that if we ever have an episode of Power Rangers where a Ranger is getting stalked by a monster, the Rangers must protect that particular Ranger from their stalker. Steelix, really worked pretty well for the episode stalking Jen because he knew he had revenge against her because knowing that she and the rest of the Time Force police had put him away years ago. So him coming back after being, released from prison, probably on his own or such. I don't know, maybe Ransik had released him or Frax had released him off screen, before, in the events before this episode in order to seek revenge against Jen. We haven't seen this plaza area since Lost Galaxy. Again, another Time Force Lost Galaxy reference parallel with me here. And I know that there is some parallels to Lightspeed Rescue somewhere also too, because see, again, Time Force is sandwiched in between a space opera season, a rescue op season, and a animal wildlife based season. Seeing the pattern. Given this season is the highlight of the post-Zordon era than the other three. And that music box, it's creepy. I know. And then the CGI Steelix head, yeah, given what can you do? It was early 2000 CG for Power Rangers. It wasn't that impressive. This is some creepy stuff. I mean, with that message telling Jen to show up at this warehouse, and this is some creepy stalker stuff. I mean, I wish that if they did something like this in Power Rangers again, let alone if this is like a Red Ranger getting stalked by a monster, a Blue Ranger, Pink Ranger, whoever, I mean, they need to do something like this again. Because this is like the only time we're going to have a Power Ranger getting stalked. Full shot of the clock tower. Hardly ever saw that. Jen didn't listen. I get she wanted to deal with Steelix on her own, just like what she did with Fat Catfish many episodes ago, but this time the Rangers are really concerned about her safety. It's like she doesn't give a damn regardless. She just wants Steelix. It's not like with Fat Catfish back in Jen's Revenge, but this episode parallels with that episode very well, but except Eric is in this episode only for in the last minute. But given again if you go back to Jen's Revenge and then come many episodes, like 20 episodes after this episode, after that episode later, you come to this episode, you see some parallels to that episode to this one. And I like that because sometimes you have an episode of Power Rangers from earlier in the season, and then a later episode would retract that and reflect on what was done earlier, and then probably strengthen it a little bit, either or weaken what was done before the first time. There have been a lot of shots of her and her undergarments under that skirt a lot, even when she's fighting. Seriously. And just like in Jen's Revenge, we got Jen with scars on her face. Not like unlike in that episode, but there's only minor scars on her face and bruises. There is a comparison of what was done here in Time Ranger versus this, but in Time Ranger, Steelix would take the Pink Ranger, and when he uses that pepper spray to get knock her out, make her pass out, she's under his control, and she is forced to snipe her teammates. Yeah, using the pepper spray. Yeah, right there. Because in Time Ranger, Steelix's counterpart would mind control Yuri to try to take down her team by using a sniper, doing at pinpointing the Rangers there. But we know that in our version, if you see, for those who've seen this episode and watched Time Force, that we know that what's so weird about this is that when Steelix pepper sprayed Jen in the face when she was morphed until she knocked out, she just gets up. Wes picks her up, and then this freaky Evil Deadite stuff happens. Ball in her fist, going crazy. Zombie Jen, red iris in her face. It's kind of creepy, man. I've been joking about this during my rewatch of the season whenever I get to this episode after those goofy episodes like Movie Madness. As soon as we get to more serious episodes, this is starting to be like Evil Dead with Power Rangers. Except you don't need the Necronomicon to make someone possessed by the dead or a zombie deadite to try to take one of your own and make you a zombie. I like the American fight footage of the other three Rangers against Steelix at a parking lot. Jeez. I mean, and then also I like the green lighting around some of the scenery of this fight with possessed Jen versus Wes. I mean, she's like really at it with this. Like, I've said that I thought that most majority of the casts of the post Zordon era could not do their own stunts. I'm surprised they actually did their own stunts here, because usually most majority of the casts of the post Zordon era can't even fight for nothing. I mean, most of the time when they're fighting, it's only when they're in the suits. I'm really impressed with the Time Force cast that for some unmorphed fights, and sometimes that they can do some fighting, because of course with the inability, due to some of the inexperience with some of the casts between Galaxy to Wild Force, that they can't do most of the fighting. Again, seeing Jen being possessed only happens for only 2 minutes. The only way to resolve it, Wes has to hug it out to make her realize that they're a team and she can't be acting like that. I get it. Steelix made her go berserk with the, after being pepper sprayed. Note to self, don't pepper spray anyone and make them go stir crazy. It's just not right. And the way how her face looked with that possessed look, she just looked like she hadn't had a great, she looks like she really had a bad day. Oh, this is foreshadowing the cow explosions for the Disney era. with those explosions around the 3 Rangers. A back explosion and 2 front explosions. You think Time Force is a joke? Go tell the, yeah, the SPD Rangers would like to have a word with you if you even existed. Eric only appears once in this episode. I don't know why he even has the Silver Guardians cap before he even was appointed as commander of the Silver Guardians. I don't know, like, why was that? Usually, I thought that whenever Saban did adapted certain monsters from this era of Sentai, Power Rangers era Sentai, usually most of the majority of any monsters in Sentai using rifle guns or any kind of violent weapons would not be permissible in Power Rangers. But yet this monster, but again, Steelix is a prime example. But in fact, Catfish, given he had a minigun for an arm and Steelix has a rifle, a sniper rifle to take down, but he does use a sniper rifle or make Jen use a rifle against the Rangers. So they had to make her just be possessed in the adaptation of this particular Time Ranger episode. To go into mode blue with the Shadow Force formation in this episode, since just like in the previous episode. But there have been times, in Time Force, whenever we had a Megazord fight, sometimes they would use the same Megazord formation 2 to 3 times per episode. Like one episode is mode red, another episode is mode red with Shadow Force. Sometimes mode red, regular, then to Shadow Force. Sometimes, and even the same go with mode blue. But that depends on whatever footage of Time Ranger they were using to do so, and based on the correlating footage. This was, there was a reason for Eric to be, halted, because knowing he can handle the mutant on his own. Because one of the problems with Eric, he never always wanted to work with the Rangers because he's always on his own. He always did. So that solves the episode here, but only to then, now that we're getting close to getting all the mutants at this point. Now they pretty much got all the good ones. Now they're going to be stuck with mutants that they probably feel lesser of a threat as opposed to earlier. Yeah, that was quite a big bang up job when she was possessed, hitting him so hard. And you would think in the year 3000 that desserts are prohibited in the future. And given she never had a dessert pretty much in a long, long time back in her and the other Rangers' time, now she wants to try out a cookie. Because darn well, while the cookie is hot and fresh, it's probably, I think there's a good reason the other 3 didn't want any, because I bet you the cookie probably tastes like crap, in which, according to Wes's case, once he chews on it a few times and then spits it out, it does taste like crap. Jesus, woman, what do you put in the cookies? Probably putting too much milk. And I bet you they probably taste like zero, because anything diet and zero sugar makes you have diarrhea and constipation. And I bet you, yeah, you can tell she was gagging on that, because she never had a cookie before. I was about to say something about Captain Logan earlier before I go, but Of all of the captains of the post Zordon era, Captain Logan really didn't fare much to do, and it's sad that he never got to serve any purpose in the show, and yet the true commanding officer of Time Force was the real deal here. But as you know, compared to Commander Stanton and Captain Mitchell, Captain Logan didn't really do often all that much. So yeah, Time Force Traitor was a great episode, although I would call it Gen Stalker episode. And skip the opening preview since I already did a fan commentary on Frax's Fury around this time last year during this current time with the pandemic that is COVID-19 right now, to accumulate with that time where we are today with that. So